I have played nearly every single game that's released this year. I've hunted monsters inside of the wilds. I've killed entire armies like ants inside of Dynasty Warriors. Played Dress to Impress inside of the first Berserker. Sought out revenge in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, while also kind of getting sidetracked on the way. But despite all the games that I've played this year, none have quite captivated me as much as Claire Obscur Expedition 33. Now, I could talk about how innovative the combat is and how the story alone is nothing short of generational, but I'll save that for another date and another video, because that's not what this one is for. This video is strictly to discuss what Expedition 33 has done for gaming culture as a whole, and how within an era of harsh monetizations, high prices, and lazy development, Claire Obscur joins the list of games atop a podium that not only shy away from supporting these practices, but outright deny them. But we'll get into that soon. Right now, we have to ask the question: how has Expedition 33 been a driving moment for video game culture? Actually, now that I'm actually reading that out, that seems a little too long. How is Expedition 33 a W for the culture? The entire concept of AA games is lost on some. Not in an egotistical way, it's just a misconstrued notion. People often use AA to describe the quality of a game, saying that a game feels cheaply made if it simply is that, a AA game, which I personally think is harmful for gaming culture as a whole, but we'll discuss that soon. When a game is considered AA by a company, it is simply talking about the amount of money spent on said game. It's just a measurement on how expensive the game is. Things that make a AA studio can be seen in all different types of ways. You could have a lower overall development cost, smaller development teams as a whole, or in some cases, a video game is just being made outside of big name companies. Every single one of the descriptors having nothing to do with the actual quality of the game. However, there's almost this stigma that AA games are somehow inferior to that of AAA games, especially considering that most AAA games are often built on the same exact engine, using the same exact techniques, layouts, and strategies that most AAA games are. For example, one game could be made in Unreal Engine and be considered a AA game, while another game also made in Unreal Engine can be considered a AAA game. One of them just has more money spent on it. That's pretty much it. And often the one that has more money spent on it is simply just bigger than the other one. That's like saying a large drink from a restaurant tastes better because it's in a bigger glass. It doesn't make any sense. It especially doesn't make sense with the absolute masterclass of AA games that are coming onto the market recently. The Lost Crown, Helldivers 2, Lies of P, Metaphor, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, South of Midnight, and now Expedition 33 are just a small list of AA games that have absolutely piqued everyone's interest. Most of these games are games that, had I not directly told you that they're under the title of AA, you probably wouldn't have guessed that they were. These games that I listed are nothing more than games that have become trailblazers for a forgotten mindset. Smaller and more condensed games can be just as profitable, creative, and even more innovative than AAA games. You see, so often within the gaming community, we've been ingrained to think that bigger is better within it, and not just by developers, but by the consumers as well. Smaller games are often overlooked and often degraded just for that, being small. But time and time again, AA games have shown and proven that they can fit any criteria that the culture throws at it. Do you want one of the most in-depth sandbox RPGs ever created? Well, we have that with KCD 2. Want an innovative game that introduces new mechanics to the gaming industry? Expedition 33 has you covered. Want a visually divergent masterpiece that's almost never been seen before within gaming? South of Midnight. It doesn't matter what exactly you want with a video game, there is a AA game out there that does what you want, just often at a cheaper entry cost than a AAA game. This is why I've always hated the concept that people narrow down AA games to nothing more than just cheap games. They are so much more, and I personally think that with the release of Expedition 33, it will be a trailblazer for the general community to see just how much games can do for the price of $50. And within an era where video games are doing nothing more than increasing in price, pricing it at $50 is a message. That's why I choose Expedition 33, a game with the highest rated user score of all time, to be the charging force for this mindset. And it's for one main reason. Not only is it now $30 less than the cultural norm for games, it was made entirely by a group of almost unknown developers. Unknown developers, mind you, that are actually vocal about the difference between AAA and AA games. Even going as far to state that a game like this wouldn't just take 20 years to be made, but even be greenlit under the watch of a AAA studio. The charm and allure of this game comes from the fact that it was within a AA era. Now, I know we've all heard the news that this game was made by quote-unquote ex-Ubisoft developers, which isn't exactly true. The truth is, within their 33-person team, only 3 of them were from Ubisoft previously. Every other person that worked on this game were junior developers that were largely unknown before this release date. And what's crazy is it gets even more insane the more you dive into it. The lead writer within this game, previously a private equity investor who actually auditioned for a voice acting role within the studio twice. Expedition 33 was her literary debut, and she cultivated a literal masterpiece. The composer within the game? Yeah, they found him on SoundCloud, posting his tracks on a gaming forum. The rest of the team was filled with junior developers who were working on their first major title. By all societal accounts, this game should have failed. But 2 million copies later, and a studio comprised of ex-developers for one of the most belittled companies in gaming, a writer who was making her professional debut, and an amateur composer who was previously releasing his music on SoundCloud, and a team of junior devs made arguably one of the most innovative and thought-provoking games of this decade. And with the clear precedent set by games like this, it seems even more like the notion of cheaper entry prices for video games could stay, which is now more than ever crucial for the promotion of games. And even in this short amount of time, I do think it's paying off. In this year alone, we have already gotten Split Fiction and Expedition 33, and soon we'll be getting Elden Ring, Night Rain, and Mafia: The Old Country, all games releasing below the industry standard. With Expedition 33 and Split Fiction both becoming the highest rated games this year, and the other two seeming to follow suit, it's only a matter of time before gaming companies begin to connect the dots. Smaller games with a more condensed story that are actually thought-provoking is the way to go. Instead of trying to jam-pack a 150-hour campaign, let's just make something that we want to make. So, like I said before, what does this mean for the gaming industry? What I love within the game is that one of the main themes within Expedition 33 is the importance of altruism within the world, working to see a future that you may or may not see. This game, along with all of the others that I just listed, are doing just that. They are setting footstools in an era where companies are beginning to take the game code out of physical disc cartridges and charge $90 for it. They are setting a precedent in an era where games take 10 to 15 years to be developed just for the sake of being big and grand spectacles, rather than an actual good piece of art. And most importantly, they are showing that a smaller team with creativity and passion can beat out giants with nothing but feel to finish their product. Maybe going forward, game studios will be able to take risks and give the creative ideas a shot. Maybe they will aim for a 30 to 50 hour experience instead of that 80 to 100 one. And maybe, just maybe, they'll finally realize that expensive games aren't always the way to go. Because imagine what the success would look like if this game did follow the trend of recent AAA titles of just overpricing their games just because they are that. AAA titles. Would this game have shocked the culture if it was priced at a soon-to-be norm $70 to $100? Absolutely not. And I think Expedition 33 is doing this for the progress of gaming, for those who come after.